Hello everyone, I'm Jesse and welcome back to our channel. Today we have a very fascinating topic to explore, the history of the Taishanese diaspora in the United States and their rich history and culture. So without further ado, let's begin. Before we dive in, let's set the stage of where this all began. Taishan, a city in Guangdong Province, China, has around roughly 1,500 villages in its vicinity and surrounding area, which many in the Taishanese diaspora can trace their ancestry back to one of these numerous villages in Taishan. Taishan itself is a place with a deep and long history and cultural significance, and also has a history deeply intertwined with migration. Many Taishanese people embarked on a remarkable but often hard journey to the United States, and although their impact is little known, it is still very much felt to this day. Our story begins in the late 19th century when the first waves of Taishanese immigrants and workers set sail for the United States in search of a better life and more opportunities. As for the reasons for their migration, often greatly varied. From economic prospects, escaping political turmoil, and needing money for their family back home. In the lure of the American gold rush. However, their journey wasn't easy. These brave souls faced grueling sea voyages and often cramped conditions and uncertain futures. Upon arriving, they encountered the often daunting process of immigration at places like the Port of San Francisco, where they underwent medical examinations and documentation checks. The Taishanese played a pivotal role in shaping the United States as we know it today. They labored in industries like agriculture, construction, and mining, as well as the building of the Transcontinental Railroad, contributing significantly to the country's development and expansion. Their jobs in almost all of these industries were very hard labor and very low pay. But nonetheless, even with the low pay rates given to Taishanese laborers, the pay greatly helped improve the quality of life of their families back home and those who had family with them, while some Taishanese Americans also became incredibly wealthy and successful businessmen by starting their own companies and businesses in their newfound home. However, their life and journey in this new land was met with and marred by discriminatory laws like the Chinese Exclusion Act. That was enacted in 1882, which restricted immigration and targeted Chinese communities. Most also faced extreme discrimination and killings and violence, and even massacres from the Anglo Americans who saw them as too different and culturally backwards to assimilate or integrate into American society, while other recent European immigrant groups saw them as competition that needed to be gotten rid of. Despite these challenges, the Taishanese and their communities demonstrated resilience, forming tight-knit communities and cultural institutions, as well as eventually means to defend their communities. After many arrived, many Taishanese settled in various communities such as San Francisco, New York, and other major cities, forming the first Chinatowns in America, so which would become safe havens for Chinese Americans, many of which still stand today. In many of these Chinatowns, city and regional associations united to form a National Chinese Consolidated Benevolent Association, an umbrella organization which defended the political rights and legal interests of the Chinese American community, particularly during times of anti-Chinese repression. Tongs, Chinese gangs also often came into the picture of protecting their own communities when needed, despite many Tongs having conflicts with one another. Chinatowns also became places of cultural preservation and continuation, and a place of great business success for many of these early Taishanese Americans, and still are today for many of the Taishanese diaspora. Now we fast forward to the 20th century, so which brought about another great era of upheaval for China and so ultimately for all of those in Taishan as well. In 1911, the Qing dynasty was collapsed and overthrown, ushering in the Republican era from 1912 to 1949 and the Warlord era from 1916 to 1928. In the early Republic era, some families in Taishan were incredibly wealthy, incredibly prosperous, and well to do, including some of my own ancestors. In times, in some regards, seemed to be on the lookup despite the internal turmoil going on throughout much of China. But all of this would change on July 7th of 1937.
Chinese troops battle their way into Changte, gateway to the rich rice lands in western Hunan province. 6 weeks before, 8 Japanese divisions had taken the city.
As news of the Marco Polo Bridge incident spread through China and the government and then President of the Republic of China, Chiang Kai-shek knew that Japan would not stop its rapid encroachment and ultimately brutal invasion of China. In March 1941, the Imperial Japanese Army invaded Taishan's capital, killing around 280 people. The aftermath of this in Taishan was devastating. Formerly wealthy and well-to-do families were now forced to sell their grand family homes and their most prized possessions and had to use the money to buy farmland instead, which most worked tirelessly from the beginning to the end of the Japanese occupation to ensure the survival of themselves and their families. In 1945, the occupation of Taishan by the Imperial Japanese Army would come to a close. In late 1945, after the defeat of the Imperial Japanese Army by the United States and its allies. But needless to say, peace at home would be, unfortunately, very brief. In 1946, the Chinese Nationalist and Chinese Communist armies would resume their civil war and battle for their control of China. Ultimately, the Communists gained control of the mainland and the People's Republic of China was founded on October 1st of 1949, and the Nationalist Army and their government was forced to retreat to the island of present-day Taiwan. Then after this came major events such as the Great Leap Forward from 1958 to 1962 and the Cultural Revolution from 1966 to 1976, which brought about major and unforeseen amounts of poverty, death, famine, and persecution throughout China, causing many to flee. Due to all of the major events that occurred in China during that 65-year span of time, between 1911 and 1976, from the late 1940s onward to the 1970s, would bring about another massive migration and immigration of people from Taishan to the United States for various reasons, ranging from looking for a better life, better economic opportunities, or sometimes all three of these things combined and all that they entailed. Upon arriving in the U.S., many of these new Taishanese immigrants headed to where they had family or friends in the U.S., while others went at it alone. Ultimately, though, upon arriving, whether with family or friends, or completely alone, most largely had to start their lives completely over and learn a new language and new way of life, very different from the one they knew. Despite many having to completely start over with little to no money, many of these Taishanese immigrants would come to start and build many new businesses, ranging from grocery stores and markets to laundries and restaurants and cafes, which really began to introduce Chinese culture and Chinese food further into the American public for the first time. Fast forward to today, and the Taishanese influence is still very vibrant and evident in modern Chinatowns across the nation, including the Taishanese language. These communities have evolved into vibrant cultural hubs, showcasing not only their cuisine, but also their rich traditions, festivals, art, and businesses. As the years go by, the Taishanese diaspora continues to thrive, bridging the gap between the past and the present. Cultural events, festivals, and educational initiatives play a crucial role in passing down traditions to the younger generations. In conclusion, the Taishanese diaspora in the United States has a history full of trials, triumphs, and unwavering resilience. Their contribution to American society both in the past and today is immeasurable, reminding us of our ancestors' great struggles and great successes that helped them to shape this nation as it is today. Thank you for joining us today on this exploration of the Taishanese American journey and experience. If you enjoyed today's video, please be sure to like, subscribe, and share the video. And if you're feeling extra generous, please help support me on my Patreon to help keep this channel going and growing. And as always, stay curious. Until next time, bye.
Con xóa chúng ca con bầu dầu chúng ca ngon giá miệng bọn hùng giá miệng bọn hùng